You don't know how great I am. You don't know how great I am. I am what I am, and I am free.
Yeah, so I'm kind of running a risk of being at home for them.
At the office and it was doing it.
Yeah.
How many times, Anne?
Yeah.
In our little meeting? Like 2 or 3 times. It was ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And
Hi,
I'm not exaggerating.
Kalautia. Am I pronouncing your name properly? I don't think so.
Kalauti?
Yes. Hi. Oh, I can't hear you. Hello? I'm not hearing you still, just so you know. Yeah, I can hear you now. Kalahindi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write this down phonologically. So it's gal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Okay.
Galahunti.
Okay. Galahun.
Galahunti.
Okay. Thank you for that. And thank you for your
Go ahead.
patience. Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, yes. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Corey. How are you?
I'm great.
Excellent. Good. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here as well. I'm just going to give everybody a couple minutes just because in the virtual world, I've noticed that people don't try to come in usually until about 6:30. We have about 12 people registered for tonight, so a small group, which is nice. But I do want to give them a minute or so. I thought you might come back, Dana. Unfortunately, our list can't come tonight. So she might be able to come on the next one. But so anyway, I just thought I'd let you know. Hi, Jen.
I don't know if you know this, Corey. I was looking at something on Facebook the other day, and just something popped up, and I guess braiding sweetgrass is being turned into they're sort of making it into a resource for grade 7 to grade 8, and she's changing the language a little bit, and she's making it so that it's more geared toward like middle school and high school, so it can actually be used as a resource in schools.
Really?
It's not available yet. I guess it's not going to be published until September or something, but I meant to send you guys the information. If I find it again, I think I saved it. I'll send it to you guys. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that would be fantastic because we're actually making a kit around braiding sweetgrass because we had, well, as you know, we had the book studies last year a few times, and I certainly would love to do them again. They were such a really important professional learning opportunity.
Oh yeah, I would totally attend them again. It was
I know.
yeah, it was so good.
Yeah. It was really good.
Awesome.
Well, I want to welcome everyone that is here tonight, and please know that we will have a few more. Just as an opening, I just want to let you all know that I'm still having some difficulty with Rogers with my internet. So I have expanded that bandwidth, so I should be okay tonight. But I just, for whatever reason, if I drop off a call, not to worry, it's not going to close because Andrea and Debbie and Anne all have co-host capabilities. So that means it'll still go and the conversation will still be organic. Andrea also has the movie or the film itself, so she'll be able to play that. So to begin this evening, I want to show the video. And the reason I want to show the video is because within it, there, of course, will be the land acknowledgement. But before I begin, I don't have tobacco in my home. So I'd like to offer symbolic tobacco for those that are on this call that are Indigenous and those that are not. I do want to offer that to you to be in the space and to be open to learn together about your ways of knowing and being, and really just having an open stance to that. I'm going to show the film. Just let me know if you can hear it. So as soon as I put it up, okay? So in this particular space, we like to show the video and then just have some emergent conversation. Okay, I'm gonna hit play. If you hear it, give me a thumbs up. Oh, thank you for that. I'm gonna reshare my sound and then let me know if that changes.
Donjiba, Wingando them. Get your manado chimi gwachmin waka kinda manda naju and giska nungum. Get your manado chimi gwachmin waka kinna wabanung, jawanung, epping neshmuk ki wade nung. Get your manado chimi gwachmin waka kinna ganaju and nibe. Get your manado chimi gwachmin waka kinna baneshi. Get your manado chimi gwachmin waka kinna mazak mikwe.
We acknowledge that the Waterloo region is located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Waterloo region is part of the Haldimand Tract, which encompasses 6 miles on either side of the Grand River, from the mouth near Dundalk to where it empties into Lake Erie at Port Maitland. We also acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today.
As Canadians, we all know truth and reconciliation is important. It has revealed horrific experiences of residential schools and how these experiences have profoundly impacted survivors, families, and Indigenous communities. And it is absolutely essential that we all pause and take time to learn about this and consider our roles and responsibilities in this process. And this is true for all of us in the early years sector. We are just beginning to unpack and understand what these concepts may mean to us, our families, our children, and the work that we do. How do we bring these concepts into the classroom in true, respectful, and authentic ways? We may not have all the answers, but we are asking ourselves the important questions. The Early Childhood Professional Resource Center is proud to walk alongside you as we uncover truths that may lead us to these answers. We invite you to learn with us, think with us, and reflect on how truth and reconciliation connects to the early years sector. Welcome to the journey.
Our ability to be living and working here in Waterloo Region is a direct benefit of centuries of policies of assimilation and expulsion of Indigenous people. And one of the examples of those policies was the removal of children from their homes to attend Indian residential schools. And the impacts of those policies are still felt today amongst Indigenous communities.
When we look at the land that we sit on today, there's been many nations that traveled through this part of the territory. One of them would be the Anishinaabe, one would be the Haudenosaunee people from the Six Nations, and the other one would be the Huron nations that once lived in this part of the world. Simply put, when the newcomers came to North America, what they seen here was a vast land, and they looked at it from a concept of land being more of I don't know if you call it a commodity. And when they didn't see the land being used, they thought it was being wasted. And after time, we started creating treaties with the settlers to this land. And those treaties were, in most times, never enacted upon. Indigenous people wouldn't give up 220 million acres in southern Ontario to live on little postage stamp communities. That nobody in their right mind would make that type of a deal. And it shows you what happened during this time when they didn't honor those treaties, and then they tried to annihilate us, through residential school.
I know about my dad's residential school experience because I spoke with other elders that were in residential school with him, and he said he was always locked up Panegi Atakogasa Zamki Anishinaabe because he spoke the language, Anishinaabe language. Panegi Chigasa, he was always scolded. Panegi Mshishegasa, he was always given the strap. He asked me, "What do you think your dad brought home from residential school?" I go, "The strap." That's how he punished us, with the strap, So that's what he brought home.
I can even tell you from personal experience, that they weren't allowed to hug their children and show affection to their children, or they were taught not to in the residential school. And then when the children are born of these families, they were never taught those ways of being affectionate either to their own children. So it passes on from generation to generation. That's what I'm seeing today with the intergenerational effect of residential school, is what they learned is still being presented to their families. And it's really painful to watch because they want to hug their children. They want to tell their children they love them, but it's been pushed inside of them and their families for so long. It's just not natural.
When we first wanted to start a childcare program, our community was very opposed to it. And thinking back now, they would never really say why. But now looking back, it's institutionalized, and their memory would be so connected to that experience they had in the residential school.
I mean, being Indigenous affects my whole life. Education primarily has been weird, I want to say. More so because my family went through a lot of colonization through my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother, to the point that I didn't know I was Native until I was 13. I was raised most of my life being told I was just a very dark white person.
Sometimes identifying as Indigenous puts you more in the spotlight of the child welfare system. As a child comes and maybe it's been a hectic day and you get to the childcare program and somebody's missing a shoe, and rather than it's being, those things happen. Oh, you're Indigenous, so therefore you're already a parent who's not capable of caring for these children, and you get a tick mark to say, okay, we've got to watch these guys, rather than saying, oh yeah, okay, we've got an extra pair of shoes here, let's let Johnny wear them today. So building those supports in for those families so they're not feeling targeted, rather supported, right? So then you're building that trust with those families to say, yeah, everybody has those tough days, right?
It's so important for us as educators to recognize that we are products of a particular kind of education ourselves, especially when it comes to the training of early childhood education. Particular perspectives, particular views about children, about how children grow, about our practices. All of these are shaped by theories and research that are largely Eurocentric in nature. And those practices that we have embraced over the years are practices that we call quality practices. And so I think that as we go through this journey, a really essential journey for us, it is our opportunity to reconsider some of these ideas, to make space for new ideas, and to make space for new theories.
As beneficiaries, we have the responsibility to learn about, to understand, and to reflect upon the true history and the contributions and the current experiences of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. We must apply that and use that information to inform the work that we do today so that we can stop perpetuating the damages of colonization and begin to repair it.
As someone who operates within this very colonial life experience, my way of knowing is to exploit knowledge, to extract it, to repackage it, name it, and then benefit from it myself. And my worry if I'm being really honest, about becoming more aware of Indigenous culture is the potential for it to be exploited or for it to be used in ways that isn't respectful or authentic. I'm worried about there not being enough Indigenous representation, not only in the families that come through childcare and early learning, but the educators and also those in leadership in early learning.
As I sort of developed my identity and developed what it meant, it sort of expanded more to where I'm at now, which is Indigenous education for early childhood. I tend to look at it through this view of I am giving these kids everything I wish I had when I was their age. Everything that I couldn't have, everything that was taken from me, I'm trying my hardest to give back to them.
Language is very important. Language is our own, our kendagzing awing to be recognized as who we are.
As I look back and think about the Native kids I teach and how I know this one family comes from an Anishinaabe household, and every time I see that kid say buju to me or say ani or speak the language in the classroom, I know they're getting what they deserve and what needs to be given back.
You have to hold on to it. Don't let it go again. If you get it, hold on to it. And use it.
It's hard to generalize, to say, oh, all Indigenous people learn this one particular way. But I think part of it can connect to our culture in the sense of a lot of our traditions, a lot of our teachings are this balance between oral tradition and sort of hands-on kinesthetic learning. A good example being just earlier today, I was teaching a class about drum strikers and how they work with the drum and everything. And what we did was I gave them the verbal stories, the verbal teachings of what a striker means, what its cultural significance is, but I was building the striker in front of them. And after it was built, after I crafted it, I allowed them to touch the striker, feel the striker, try it on the drum, and sort of intertwine that. And it's just, in my opinion, mixing all of the teaching styles into one lesson is most important.
Some teachers are doing this now, which is which is nice to see. In their classrooms, they'll have colors in Anishinaabe with the crayons, and numbers in Anishinaabe, and animals in Anishinaabe, just like you would do it in ordinary English schools environment. You know what I mean? Have all those displayed all over the place.
Although we're regaining a lot of our traditional knowledge, the part that was never recoverable is those children who lived their life and weren't able to practice their language and culture and not even knowing that they lost it during that time period. So in this recovery period, we're hoping that we can regenerate the energy for our children to feel that beautifulness about being Indigenous and pick up that language once again.
Reconciliation. We're not doing, gosh, we're about to fix what has happened. You can't do it. But it already happened. You already did it. You guys are almost winning. We are starting to get up again. When we're teaching ourselves our culture. We're teaching ourselves how to speak Anishinaabe again. How to write it. How to read it. And then finally, how to speak it. That's what we're doing now.
The trauma that affected Indigenous people all those years, now that residential schools are over and we're starting to learn our culture again, we're in that healing cycle, which is going to take some time for us to develop within our own families and our communities. You know, as long as we have the ability to talk about our true history, the painfulness of it, we'll get through that part of it and then define what reconciliation can be. But we are partners in this country. The resources and the laws have to reflect that.
Different nations have different symbols. Even if they have a drum, there's different drums that represent or that each grouping of nations uses.
Significant things is how we see Indigenous people. Sometimes we relate to things like teepees and other artifacts that I guess through Hollywood and other medias we were associated with. But in this particular region, we didn't have those types of things. A lot of them were birch bark canoes. We had a lot of birch bark, which we used in our wigwams, which we call our houses. And so the significance in this region was all the natural elements that we held in order to accommodate the needs that we had.
Muscodewas is sage, gishik is cedar, sema is tobacco, wingash, sweetgrass. It's just all these are all medicines to purify you. We call that kwenesige, and that's to smudge, kwenesige. You're cleansing your body, so you can start new. Now with kwenesige, every day I light up the smudge where I teach, so people who want to come and smudge, they can come. I'm not forcing anyone to come and smudge.
When our children look at Indigenous people from this region, think about all the gifts that we were able to present that is used today, just by using the birch bark, the natural medicines that we have. I think there should be some more knowledge to our children about the significant role of Indigenous people and what we have today to keep ourselves healthy.
If in your setting you have children that are Iroquois or Haudenosaunee, right, to understand that their beliefs and their symbols are different than an Ojibwe child or a Dene child or somebody of mixed heritage or the Métis people, right, that have their symbols and their teachings and their strengths, but letting them know that it isn't taboo either for the Haudenosaunee people to learn about the Métis.
I really think learning about Indigenous people at the youngest age possible will help the next generations become a lot more aware than the previous ones. So none of this becomes a shock. It just becomes the natural fabric of Canada.
If we don't seize this moment and if we don't move beyond a one-size-fits-all approach to things, if we don't do that, we're going to lose elements of culture that are so important, and they're important to the children that are within our programs.
As we continue to become more aware of Indigenous culture and what authentic belonging feels like and looks like for Indigenous folks, how might the room look different?